gentlemen, I just want to remind you that we actually have an email list and we would love you to join us. If you want to sign up, go to www.thewizardandthepriestess.com and find your sign up button. Join us today. Hello and welcome to The Wizard and the Priestess. I am Nuala and this is...
Matt. Hello, Nuala.
Hi, Matt. Today we are trialling this whole thing of recording from other sides of
the Pacific.
Different places, different placement.
Yes.
Whew. So let's dive straight in. After last week's Q&A episode, we actually had a few more questions come diving in, didn't we, Matt?
We did. I can't find them.
I thought.
Have you got them?
Yeah, hang on. I got one. So what was I going to say? I thought we'd make it a little bit of a segment each week. So if you have any questions, you feel free to send them Matt's way and, and we will answer them. So one question we received was, what's the difference between infatuation and love? You go, Matt.
So infatuation and love. Infatuation would be, in short, an unmet need by the ego. And let's say you are, be it in a relationship or not, you have a need, and let's say it's not met. You're going to be, let's say, mentally hungry, emotionally hungry, maybe even spiritually hungry. Or if you're not getting physical touch, you might be physically hungry in that respect. So an infatuation would be noticing something over there that you perceive to have the thing that you're missing. So it's really easy to get drawn to that, and just like you would get a snack if you're hungry instead of having a meal, you're going to be drawn to that snack, we'll call it, and that can lead to an infatuation. Whereas love is more of a driving force behind, well, creation itself, really, but we'll go into that. What's your infatuation definition, if you will?
Infatuation is a bit of an obsession, I think. Whereas I think love is much more soft, and it doesn't have that obsession aspect. It is much more, how would I say?
I'd say love's a lot more sustainable than infatuation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But it is, it's much less, love is much less crazed. Infatuation is kind of this desire and craze feeling that is kind of a higher vibration that needs more fuel to keep it alight. Whereas I think once it turns into love, then it's kind of that whole craze spiraling vibration, it dissipates to a point where it's kind of like, so the idea that came to me just then is like these big crashing waves of infatuation and desire that keep coming and rolling in and like smashing down, and it's just this big, amazing, exciting roller coaster ride. But it is a roller coaster ride. It's big, full of lots of feeling. The vibration is high, but it's staccato. What's that? This really fast. Whereas I think. Yeah, whereas love is kind of like the lake.
Right.
Where it's just pure in a sense. It is soft. There is no, you can, walk into it and you can walk out of it and the ripples exist and they are there, but it doesn't have that same vibration and that fast kind of agitation in a sense that infatuation has. So that's how I would see the difference in a sense.
Okay, so I think infatuation probably more associated with short term, Not all the
I
time.
think if that infatuation has to be short term, right? Because if you stay in that, I would think would turn into a pathology.
Yeah, to be obsession or addiction.
Yeah, and that would be like, I would say infatuation is just one molecule less of obsession. Obsession.
One molecule less.
From obsession.
Very good. Yeah, because I think with, let's say, love is the energy that sustains creation itself. And infatuation isn't that. It's like it would be a sub energy, if anything, if we were to compare it with that. And that love, which is also light, not to be separated, but they're the same kind of similar concept, with love being light, light being love. Light is formed into something that's been created, is what we call reality, and it's shaped by love. But then when you're talking about love in like a relationship with someone, I think to the degree you are infatuated with someone, that's quite pathological. And was it episode 22? We spoke about love, where it's quite a low level of love, like a sex and violence type love. Whereas if you go up into the stages of love, we can go into empathetic, compassionate, sex and violence, conditional, then unconditional. Then we're going into realms and concepts that are more and more, arguably even outside the concept of the intellectual mind. Both infatuation and what we would call love can make us do some pretty weird shit. So
yeah. Episode 21 for those
was it?
wanting.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it can. And I think the strange things that love can make us do, maybe we need to consider whether that is, what level of love that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we've spoken about before that complete unconditional love, that's the bit where almost we move back towards infatuation again, but without the vibration that is like static, like the big smashing, crashing waves, because you will do anything for them and it comes from a purest place, right?
Yeah, I think it's, if we're going back to unconditional love in a relationship, let's say, unconditional love means the answer is always going to be yes. So if the answer is always yes, regardless of what the question is, it's like a thumbs up, regardless. So there is no condition by its own definition. It's whatever they want to do, no matter how harmful to you, the answer is yes. That's unconditional, which is hard for us to wrap our intellectual minds. I think with an infatuation, it can be easy to set up the dynamic of domination, because then to the degree that you're infatuated, then that you've given that person, place, thing your power.
Yeah.
And that can be a really dangerous thing to do, and a lot of people do it unconsciously. But for some people, that's their thing. So
yeah, but I would say then, a question to you then is, when you're consciously saying yes to everything because you're unconditionally loving someone or something or a place or whatever, but you are saying yes to everything, then you will essentially be giving some piece of you away for that too.
yes, but also, firstly, to be unconditional love is to not have a human body as well, because the fact that we have a body is the condition. The fact that we can use language is a condition. If I'm unconditional love, it's a quality of the absolute that the more I give, the more I have. And that's a human attribute that we share with the absolute, or that we are a part of the absolute, because when you're giving from, if you're doing something you love for yourself, for someone you love, it is an act of love. Therefore, it is sustainable. And think of a job where you're doing it because you have to do it, or you feel you need to do it, or you should do it, but then you're doing a job out of love. It's very different energy. It's very, very different. And you could probably work yourself after death doing something out of love. So yes, you are giving yourself, but then being human, it's always got to be conditional. So it depends if you want to go metaphysical with that or keep it somewhat real in this reality.
Yeah. So at what point do you move from infatuation to love, Matt? How many dates? 5, 6, 7?
I don't know.
What's the quota on that?
I don't know the numbers. I wouldn't know.
Do you have any?
It's been too long.
Do you have any kind of ballpark of when that infatuation starts to kind of like you see the switch flicking?
I don't know the rules anymore. It's been too long. I thought you'd have a better idea of numbers than I would.
I didn't date.
Straight
I
in.
didn't have the apps. Well, honestly, every relationship I've ever been in, be it friendship or partnership, I think I have always just been in. And it doesn't mean that I haven't had infatuation.
I feel like you're just bragging now.
I'm just saying at 5, 6, I reckon by 7, it's like...
By 7, it's on.
It's on. But I think, I feel like, I don't know, personally, if I have a feeling that feels good, I just flow with that feeling until it no longer feels good.
Yeah.
And actually, I will keep flowing with that feeling. I will keep bringing myself back to the goodness that I felt initially. Mm-hmm. And I could stay in something that has enough good for me. But most of the that I'll stay in it for a longer period of time. That's maybe it. Yeah, because I keep thinking, I'm going to find something more from this. This isn't, I'm going to keep learning from this. I'm going to keep expanding from this, because there is that piece inside of me that knows that I can learn and I can hold the love of whatever that is, or whatever that relationship was giving in the beginning, because there was a reason or a feeling. But I have, like we've spoken about before, I find it really difficult to let go when it is no longer serving. So for me, it always has a possibility to keep serving.
Yeah, I can see that. It would continue to serve whether it's serving you or not, if that makes sense. And then there becomes a tipping point, let's say with infatuation, where it's not sustainable. There becomes that tipping point, and it usually involves some kind of pain for self or other, where it turns into, maybe it starts with a bit of innocent feelings or fun or whatever the thing is that you're missing, that you are searching for and that you perceive to be outside yourself. But then at some point, what you perceived before as too much is now not enough. And that can really easily turn pathological. And I mean, we've all had...
say that's most relationships, right? Because actually you move from that infatuation, which is that falsehood of love, but it feels like love. It's like that big, the big crashing love, the big excitement. And then you go, all those things that you loved all of a sudden flip, and everything that you loved you now despise.
Yeah.
It's like, I love
so that's a typical
flowy.
It's a really typical symptom of giving too much, and it comes from that belief / mindset that I need to take care of you first before I take care of me. That's what usually drives that behavior that ultimately leads to resentment, which is not a very high form of love, Nuala.
Low form.
Very low.
Now, our short little question and answer segment has taken on its whole life, a whole life of its own. But I thought we'd bring us back to where we're headed now. So Matt and I were discussing what we might like to break down, and we did do this. I think it's this time of year every year. And whilst I am not really we are Southern Hemisphere based. So for me, this is a time of big abundance, big energy. It's kind of the harvest essentially is upon us, or almost upon us. And we are constantly harvesting right now. In that sense, we are always having this big energetic return. All of the gifts or the fruits of our work should be coming back to us in this summer experience. And so I don't really like that we flow with the Gregorian timeline, because we should be living, outwardly and enjoying and experiencing all that is there to offer. However, Greg decided that 31st of December everything was going to flip over, and we're going to move into 2025, which we also do. There is a huge aspect of that, but I don't know. I wonder if energetically we can feel that. Yeah, like we've adjusted that vibration.
I think we've adjusted ourselves into only following a concept that's very one size fits all. Like, we don't teach other religions at school. We don't teach how to communicate at school. We don't teach, the different calendars, as you were saying. We don't teach that different cultures have different numbers of seasons and all that kind of stuff. It's very much one size fits all, and whether that's by design, that can be a discussion for another day. But it would be the equivalent of monocropping in farming. It's just very unnatural. Yeah. And if you spend your life looking at one side of the coin, as soon as you're exposed to the other side of the coin, shit gets a bit weird.
Yeah. I was just going to touch on that too. Like, we learn the seasons. So we learn the seasons, but we don't understand the interrelationship of everything with those seasons. So I think that's something that I learned. So my whole practice as a clinician has been based on seasons within seasons, cycles within cycles. It's like that's the kind of everything is culminated in that little bit of those flow and that flow. So it's everything. So whilst we get to this yearly end of season, end of cycle, we're actually deep within the middle of a season. So it's sort of, it sort of goes against, like, we should be in a transitional period of time where this happens maybe, but actually we're midsummer, we're in the middle of summer. And so we can kind of sense that. The way that I obviously spoke about last time, is like using these months now as a preparation. So
what's it called?
Prepuary. And experiencing this time as like, okay, you can manifest your dreams. You've got the Capricorn energy of that. You've got this movement of like being really like, okay, goal oriented and focused, and, it's a good space and time for that. However, it's almost like, we're still mid-season. We're not quite actually at a point where the let go happens. And so I really recommend spending time in reflection of 2024. And hopefully, if you didn't get really busy through December like most people do, you've done the reflection. But if you haven't, you're using this Prepuary time to make sure we do that reflective time. And so what we were speaking about was essentially, hopefully, you've already created that reflection time. You've already pulled apart where you did really well in 2024. You understand the things that really you're going to harness for it as you move forward into 2025, as you move forward into this preparation time, so you can use all that knowledge learnt. So it's kind of like, you know, if you would have a business that you look back at, okay, look at the numbers, look what worked for you, what season worked for you, what, you know, where you made the most money, what month was what month was the best month in terms of economics, what month was the best month in terms of like family lifestyle. All those pieces going through that will help you then. You might have a big dream, and we spoke about that. We co-created about this. We're going to talk about it. But essentially using all of that data that you gained from last year is going to or should help you decide on where you want to go for this year or where you want to be. And so I really recommend spending the time now, whether that's prepuary only and getting like set and ready to go on the Chinese New Year on the 29th of January. Or if you want to stretch that out and really use the release of the summertime as we transition, well, we'd already be fully transitioned by the 27th of March, is it? 21st of March, I think, is the astrological new year. So you kind of have this season now to kind of expand and understand what it is that you want for the rest of the year. And like I said, I like to use January to do that and just kind of spend the space in reflection, but then also using this time to get really clear on where to from here.
Yeah, it's definitely that. I think for a lot of people, December is not only busy but stressful as hell. And everything has to get done by Christmas. And then that week between Christmas, New Year is probably the weirdest week of the entire year because you don't know what day it is. You don't know what's open. Typically on Christmas Eve, you buy enough food for 3 months. It's just that weird time of year where no one really knows what's going on. And then people put so much pressure on themselves for Christmas Day and also New Year's Eve. So throw that in to it as well. But then we come up to this, is it prepuary? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, prepuary.
Prepuary, yep. It's a good year for prepuary, especially because we're coming into
Good time.
This year astrologically is 9, which is a very cyclical year. And as you were saying, it's a great opportunity to really sit in reflection. And for me, it's asking the big questions like, where am I right now? Where am I in life and in relation to who and where I want to be? What did I do well / not well this year or last year? And how can I do better? What can I do better? What can I improve? If I can just improve something 1% every single day, if I do that for 100 days, I'm 100% better in that particular thing. And then being a 9 year coming up now, then we're in the Hermit, which is, it's all about contemplation and being guided by our inner self. But to do that, we have to get still enough in our life to allow that to come in. And prepuary is the perfect time to do that. And no doubt Nula's going to make a meme or something for that. That'll be great. No pressure.
Should. Probably won't. Maybe I'll give that to you, Matt. Best of luck.
Well, that backfired spectacularly.
So, all right. So let's say, how can we utilize prepuary then? So how can we, all right, should we talk about the piece of reflection, or should we move towards, say, what you can do, or how you can utilize this time to really set yourself up for the year ahead? So if we know it's a 9-year, it's a hermit year, 9 being the end of the cycle. So you've got a 10-year cycle in numerology, and the 9 is essentially the last one, because 2026 will equal 1 or 10, which will be a 1 year. And so next year, 2026 will be a 1. So that'll be the beginning, which is the point where actually the Aquarian age fully comes into light. So it is astrologically massive year, 2026, numerologically a massive year. So it's like the beginning. It's like that bud cycle, that budding cycle of everything new coming up and becoming what it is and how it's going to be. Whereas now we're in this kind of the end of the era, 2025, this 9 year that is asking us to go inward. So with that being said, I guess the first thing I would think of would be, how do you want to feel by the end of 2025?
Are you asking me that, or is that a general?
I'm giving it over to you to touch on. Like, how can someone identify how they want to feel? Like, what would you suggest?
Well, first you need to recognise where you're at now, and if you're not happy with where you're at now, then that's worth reflecting on. I think it's really important to identify what it is that you want. It's important to identify your dream / goal / legacy / the ideation of kind of at least the direction of where you want to go. And if you're not sure of that, because for a lot of people won't have the capacity for that, so they just get still and sit with what you value in life, in yourself. And if you're not happy with where you are, then just identify bits that you want in your life, or that you want in your experience in the coming year. And then...
Hey, can I just stop you for a sec? I want you to talk about the feeling part, because the feeling, what you're talking about, is the next bit.
Oh, the feeling part.
So the feeling part in terms of how do you want to feel at the end of the year? So how would someone actually find the opportunity, like the different feelings they might want to feel?
You've got to allow yourself to embody the person that you want to feel like. There's no reason why you can't really feel that today.
So how do I do that? How do I embody that person? How do I come to know them?
Well, first you've got to identify what that is, and then realise that it's yours and it's not someone else's input that they want you to be like. You've got to live that through you. And then...
How do you do that?
After identifying what it is, then we can step into it by thinking like the person that we want to. So let's, for example, I'm not feeling great. I want to feel happy. Well, how does a happy person think? What does a happy person do? How does a happy person relate to his or herself? How does a happy person relate to others? How does a happy person eat? How does a happy person drink? How does a happy person prepare meals? What do they do during the day? That's how I can start embodying that. And then on that journey, I can find, well, okay, that felt good, that didn't really, so I'll change that. This I really love, so that's going to be like my main thing for each day. I want to do this and stay on this train. That, I'm a bit indifferent about, or not sure. Maybe I'll...
How long should someone sit with that, though? How long should they sit with the discomfort, or this doesn't feel 100%? Like, should I do that for 2 days? I didn't really like waking up with the sunrise. It made me feel tired by the end of the day, even though happy people get up and watch sunrise. So I thought that was the thing that I was going to do to make me a happy person. Should I do it for a week? Should I do it for a month? When should I when would be a point in time that I would realize that's not making me the happy person that I want to be at the end of the year?
I think it's really individual. It can be a day for someone, it can be months for someone else. For me personally, I would, if it doesn't feel good, I don't want to do it anymore. If I can see potential, then sure, I might stick at it. If my gut feels as just like, no. If it's something I really want to do, I'm really keen to get the sunrise, but I've been staying up late watching TV for too long, then I can train myself into sorting that out and getting into a rhythm that's more in line with waking up before the sun gets up, so then I can get up and watch the sun. And if I don't know how to do that because it's so far over there in my perception, well, I'm going to talk to someone who does do that and ask them what they did. And so maybe I can copy what they do. Maybe I can go with them. Maybe I come to the conclusion that it's really just not for me. I'm just really not a morning person. And I'm going to give myself permission to say, okay, well, I'll get the sunset. I'll still see the sun. It's okay. Or I could even do, if I'm not a sunrise person, I will find something else to do in the morning and just go explore and have fun and just go exploring and see what I really like doing. But the most.
Do you think that if we commit to sunrise, say sunrise, because happy people watch the sunrise, this is just what I'm saying now. So happy people watch the sunrise. I want to be happy. I want to feel like them by the end of the year. I sort of, after 2 days, have realised that I'm not really a morning person, or I sort of don't love the sunrise if it's raining out and I don't really enjoy, it's hard to like get out of bed, and that's actually really annoying. But I want to be a happy person.
Okay, so I'm then going to challenge myself to argue the belief itself that all happy people on the planet watch the sunrise.
So you just justified the reason why you're not going to do the sunrise anymore.
Well, potentially, yeah. Does every single happy person on the planet, it's like a law, they have to watch the sunrise?
It's not a law, but...
If you don't watch the sunrise, then you're not happy. You cannot be a happy person.
100%.
Yeah. So if that is
the law,
if that is the religion I have subscribed to, then sure, go for it.
I think there's something, this is like, I guess we probably were going to leave on this point, but like there's this fulcrum, you might call it,
Good
where
word.
it's...
Good word.
Where you're being like, you're at that pivot point where you know, on the one hand, you really want to do this thing because it's going to offer you the best opportunity, but then on the other hand, it doesn't feel good for you. So you're trying to find where that fulcrum is balanced, and it's almost like, do I like commit to the challenge? Do I commit to the the routine? And if I do this every single day, just 1%, if I do 1% for 100 days, I'm going to get 100% better. That means that I just keep trying and trying and try again. I know something inside of me is maybe sharing that I should try and do this, but then I'm tired because for whatever reason, I haven't slept so well that night, and I don't really want to get up and watch a non-sunrise because it's cloudy, or it's such a conundrum of I'm just speaking out loud for my friends.
That's how language works normally. Yeah. So if the sunrise isn't working for me, then I might look at other things I can do in the morning. Maybe when I wake up, I'm going to cook myself a really nice breakfast, or maybe I'm going to do a workout, or maybe I'll do a work-in like Tai Chi, Qigong. I'm going to get up and go for a walk, whether it's sunrise or not. I'm going to do something for me in the morning.
Okay, so that's what happy people do. They do something for themselves in the morning.
That's one thing they do, yes. I've talked to them.
Okay. So I'm just trying to like keep pulling this apart a little bit in a sense of like how do we, so obviously there's pieces of people would say, okay, you need a routine. Like I know personally I can do really well with a routine. I tend to like flip in, flip out of things when once they feel like they're no longer serving.
Yeah. And I think that's okay, because you don't have to commit to everything every single time. Sometimes we can go with the flow and go in and out of things and go through phases, and as long as it feels good to us, then we can give ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah, so we've got the idea of that, how everything feels, and then we want to go into how can we get really, I guess, clear when is it the going getting tough? Like I don't really, I've forgotten about the bigger picture. I've forgotten about being the happy person that I wanted to be at the beginning of the year. Or is it that I am at the precipice of something bigger? I'm at that, like I'm about to get to, you know, I'm at day 2. I'm 2% better, more happy than I was yesterday. And now I'm not, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so once we've established whether the sunrise thing works or not, then, which could take some trial and error, and maybe some days it will do it for you, some days it won't. That's how it can be sometimes. I think also sitting with a reflection of, okay, where am I leaking myself? In other words, if I want to be happier but I'm not happier, well, where's my happiness going? Where am I spending that energy? Where is it leaking in my life? Is it going towards family? Is it going towards friends? Is it going towards a relationship, be it personal, professional, whatever, that isn't nourishing me the way I need it to be nourished? And if that's the case, then what's my role in the relationship? My role in that relationship is to bring the best of myself to the table. If I'm not bringing the best of myself to the table, well, where am I out of balance in relation to that? Am I too yin in relation to that? Am I too yang? Am I spending too much energy? Am I spending too little energy? What energy do I have to give? What energy am I giving myself? All these little things add up. Where am I in relation to that polarity, to be able to bring balance into my life so I can enjoy the experience that I'm trying to get to? And once I've identified, once I'm out of balance, maybe I need more rest, maybe I need to get to bed earlier, maybe I need to stay up later. It could be anything. I need to be eating better quality food, higher quality water. I need to be more selfish. I need to make myself more of a priority. I need to prioritize going to the gym more, getting more movement in the day. All of these little things add up, and unfortunately most of us get to a point of catalyst where we're now in pain from not being on the seesaw of that polarity. We've got to find our sweet spot, the fulcrum, I believe someone called it. And once we find our balance point, then we're in a position to make the right choices in relation to the very thing that we want. Meaning there's 3 choices in regard to any person, place, or thing. We have the optimal choice, we have the suboptimal choice, or we just have the simple act of doing nothing. And often doing nothing can be the most powerful, because it could pass you by. It could add more weight to your feelings. It could add more weight to your thoughts, so you end up stuck in your head. It could make you more anxious. It could make you depressed. Whatever that is, that's where we need to look at the optimal choice. sometimes the suboptimal choice can be equally as valuable as the optimal, because you can do the suboptimal thing and hopefully learn the lesson from the suboptimal. Say, okay, well, that clearly didn't work. I'm going to do the opposite of that or something different or whatever it is. And that can be a way for us to find that fulcrum point on the seesaw.
Yeah, right. So let's say we've decided that the feeling we want to feel by the end of the year is to be the happiest person we can be. Then we've figured out that what we need to do, the kind of, or what we want to get out of this year in terms of practical aspects is we want to get up for the sunrise every morning. We want to eat well. We want to go on a holiday. And we want to do a breathwork training.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to help to prepare us. So that I would say, for anyone listening, would be a nice hermit year to do some learning this year in preparation for expansion next year. And whether doing things that are going to help you learn about yourself. So whether that is learning about your natal chart from astrology, your human design, your 5-elemental element, you're doing a one-on-one with Matt and understanding your like body and its function and what way it's like actually working so much harder than it needs to. Doing the internal work this year and putting those down on paper as your gains would be really great time to get to know yourself this year in the 9 hermit year. We'll go into the snake next time, but that is in the coming for the Chinese New Year. Maybe we'll do that episode then. So working on yourself this year, and also obviously the snake sheds the skin. So it's kind of getting underneath, getting into those layers, those deeper layers of self. A lot of contemplation options this year would be really positive, I think. Anyway, we'll talk more about that when we do that kind of Chinese New Year aspect. But so we've got those written down. We're going to do a lot of that sort of work this year. And then how would we go about, we've got our 3 option choices. So we've got our optimal choice, suboptimal choice, and doing nothing at all. Now, if we were to do nothing at all,
yes,
could we still reach the feeling of being the happy person, do you think?
Well, probably not, because by doing nothing, nothing's going to change. And if you want to be the happy person, assuming you're less happy now than you want to be at the end of the year, then the old saying, to get something you've never gotten, you've got to do something you haven't done. Something like that. So you've got to try things. You've got to go out and explore yourself. And a really, really interesting way to know where you're at is write 3 things about yourself that you would call positive, 3 things that you would call negative. Do the same thing with your parents, and also get someone who you have a really good relationship, someone who you trust, to do the same for you. And that can be a really good indication of how accurate your perception of yourself is. So a lot of people put themselves up on a pedestal, or they think, oh yeah, this person thinks this about me. And then you get the report card back and it's not quite what you thought, which could go either way.
I don't think I want to do this report card, Matt. Sounds like a terrible idea.
If you want to go into self-reflection, you'll take that and sit with it and say, okay, does that resonate? Is there something I can improve? Is there something I'm doing really, really well, and I need to I want to keep doing that and get better at it. So it's also, not taking it too personally, and that realize that if someone's perception of you isn't as grand as you had hoped, then realize they're perceiving that through their own perception, which is a mixture of their own internal, external environment. And the combination of that that shapes their perception. So hence why I said someone you trust, not someone who you constantly sort of bicker with. So if you don't get along with, your mum or your dad, probably don't ask them to do it, or maybe do ask them to do it. They could be perfect. So there's lots of little things, but by doing nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So we must do something in order to reach our end goal. So that's is the best way to do those something in terms of, I guess that's something that we value as a Western culture is routines, Yep. Okay, we do that every day. We know that's how we're going to get our gains. Is there any other way?
I think it's really individualized. But again, if you're less happy now, but you want to be more happy going forward, it's likely something has to change. And there's 1,000 ways to do it. You've just got to find what works for you. And sometimes that requires a bit of exploration. And if you're completely lost and have no idea where to start, then you can look at your own sort of morning routine. Does that work for you? Because your morning essentially sets you up for the day, right? Is there something you're doing in the morning that you really don't like doing? Is there a way to change that? If there's something that happens in your morning routine and you don't like it and there's no way to change it, then we need to look at your relationship to it. We need to look at your perception, and maybe you need to look at that thing in the morning and see it as a witness. So picture yourself doing it, but then imagine yourself watching it as if you're watching a movie. So you're a witness to it. You're not involved. You're just being an observer to it. Then you'll see it from a different perspective straight away. And then that will get something stirred in the psyche. And that's when you can hopefully start getting creative with what you're doing. If that doesn't work, talk to a friend or talk to someone really happy. Ask what they do.
I was just going to say, you could DM us and we could do a session with you. Either Matt or I, if you'd like. Feel free. We can do a New Year preparatory in Prepuary only session to try and knead out what you could and do to get to your goals by the end of the year. What do you reckon, Matt?
We could prepratise.
Preptastic.
Oh. Boom.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can mic drop that. If you are wanting to live your life to the highest potential to utilise this year, Matt and I are ready to meet you in the DMs to prep you for a preptastic Prepuary. You're lost for words.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I've peaked.
All right, guys. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
See you next time.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.